At the Galactic University of Knowledge, a vast institution orbiting a blue-white star in the neutral zone, students from hundreds of civilizations gathered to learn about the species that had shaped galactic history. Some came to study diplomacy, others warfare or culture, and a few came only to laugh at the strange creatures once called humans. The humans had disappeared long ago. Their homeworld was now silent, their colonies abandoned, their name preserved only in history archives. The university had a full department dedicated to extinct species, and yet, for most young aliens, humanity was little more than a legend, loud, emotional, unpredictable, and above all, dangerous. That morning, Professor Wren entered the lecture dome and looked at his group of students with calm patience. His species, tall and crystalline, reflected the soft light of the star through their translucent bodies. Today, he said, we discuss why the human ban was established and why it remains one of the most controversial decisions in Galactic Council history. A low murmur spread across the rows of students. The human ban had been a decree that forbade any contact, trade, or study exchange with the human species before their disappearance. The reason was listed simply as instability and uncontrollable retaliation. Most students thought it was a myth exaggerated over time. At the front sat a young student named Lyra, with smooth violet skin and 4 delicate fingers tapping her desk. She whispered to her friend Kel, whose eyes were bright green and full of curiosity. "Uncontrollable retaliation?" she said in disbelief. "How could a single primitive species be so dangerous that the entire galaxy feared them?" Kel grinned. "Maybe they threw rocks at warships." The students around them chuckled softly, earning a look from the professor. Professor Wren sighed and activated the holo display at the center of the room. "You laugh," he said, "but you forget that fear often comes from what one cannot predict. The humans were not the strongest or the fastest or even the most intelligent, yet their actions changed the course of galactic order for centuries." He pressed a control and an old file appeared. It was labeled simply, Archive Footage, Incident 54B, Earth Year 24A1. The room dimmed. The holographic image flickered to life. It showed a dusty battlefield under a red sky. Dozens of alien craft hovered above a scorched landscape. Below, trenches stretched for miles. The students leaned forward, expecting primitive chaos. But what they saw made the laughter die quickly. In the footage, human soldiers moved with eerie coordination. Their armor was dented, their faces marked with exhaustion, yet their eyes were steady. The voice of an alien commander echoed through the recording. "Surrender your colony, humans." Resistance is illogical. The humans did not respond. Instead, they signaled each other silently, preparing weapons that seemed outdated by galactic standards. Then came a blinding flash. The recording shook violently. When it cleared, the alien ships were gone, their energy fields fractured from within. The professor froze the image on the human commander's face. Calm, resolute, holding a detonator that had clearly sacrificed their entire unit to disable an enemy fleet far larger than themselves. The students were quiet. Lyra blinked in disbelief. "They destroyed themselves." "To win?" Professor Wren nodded slowly. "To protect others, yes. They believed some principles were worth more than survival. That was the logic the Council could never understand." Kel raised a hesitant hand. "But why was that considered dangerous enough to ban them?" The professor hesitated, then switched the hologram to another file. "Because the galaxy underestimated what never again meant to them." The next clip showed a peaceful alien colony orbiting a lush planet. The subtitles read, 4 years after the desolation of Earth. A delegation of alien leaders had arrived to investigate why the humans had gone silent. The last communication from Earth had been a single phrase, "We are done talking." The footage continued with sensor readings, then static, then a sudden burst of light. The colony vanished. No explosion was detected, only a gravitational collapse, precise and silent. Every alien in the room stared in stunned disbelief. Lyra swallowed hard. They had that kind of power? Professor Wren shook his head. Not power, precision. They had learned how to hide their anger in mathematics. When the Galactic Council ordered the dismantling of their fleet, they hid their ships within planetary crusts and built systems no one understood. Then they vanished. Kel leaned forward. So they were punished for defending themselves? The professor turned to the class. That is the question. Were they punished? Or were they warning us? He brought up the final piece of footage, rarely shown to students. It was dated hundreds of years after the last known human transmission. The recording came from an automated probe exploring the outer edge of the Orion spiral. The probe had detected faint signals and followed them until it reached a vast empty region of space. There it found something that should not have existed. A fleet. Hundreds of human ships, motionless and dark, orbiting a dying star. Each vessel was enormous, covered in strange armor that absorbed light itself. The probe's sensors detected no life signs, no heat, no movement. Then a single message flashed across its display, transmitted in an ancient Earth language. "We sleep until you forget." The students froze. Even Kell had no joke this time. Professor Wren spoke softly. That was the last known sign of humanity. The council forbade any further investigation. They called it superstition. But every century, new reports surface, ships disappearing near the old human sectors, faint voices in radio static, coordinates appearing in navigation systems that no one entered. Lyra whispered. So the ban wasn't just to control them. It was to protect everyone else. Rain nodded. Perhaps. Or perhaps it was their way of protecting us from ourselves. The class sat in uneasy silence. The professor turned off the projector, but the image of that sleeping fleet lingered in every mind. He dismissed the students with a simple warning. Mocking the past is easy. Understanding it takes courage. As they filed out of the dome, Lyra and Kell walked together under the glow of the corridor lights. It still doesn't make sense, Lyra said quietly. They could have ruled the galaxy. Why vanish? Kell thought for a moment. Maybe they realized they didn't need to. Later that night, in their shared dormitory, curiosity overpowered them. They accessed the restricted database, using a student override to pull up more of the old footage. What they found was unlike anything taught in class. One recording showed a human diplomat at the Galactic Council, surrounded by towering alien delegates. The humans stood calmly, hands clasped behind their back. If you threaten Earth again, they said, we will not argue. We will make sure there is no war left to fight. The delegates laughed in disbelief. The humans simply smiled. That smile, calm and certain, carried more weight than any weapon. The transmission ended, but the audio continued. A faint whisper, barely audible. We warned you once. Lyra leaned back, feeling a chill even through her skin. Maybe that's why they called it a ban, she said, because even remembering them could invite them back. Kell stared at the screen. Do you think they're still out there? Lyra hesitated. If they are, they're watching, waiting. Suddenly the lights in the dorm flickered. A low hum filled the room. Their display screen glitched and flashed a single image. A dark silhouette of a ship surrounded by blue static. Then a short message appeared in plain galactic standard. Do not disturb the sleepers. The system rebooted itself instantly. When the lights returned, all restricted files were gone. Both students stared at the blank screen, hearts pounding. The next day, Professor Wren found them waiting outside his office. Before they could speak, he raised a hand. You saw something, didn't you? Lyra nodded slowly. Why is that footage hidden? Why not tell the truth? Wren looked tired. Because the truth makes people foolish. Some will try to wake them. Others will try to destroy them. And both paths lead to disaster. Kell frowned. But the galaxy deserves to know. The professor smiled faintly. Knowledge is not the same as wisdom. The council learned that lesson too late. He handed them a small data crystal. Keep this safe. It contains what little the archives have left. One day someone will need to remember why the ban existed. Lyra took it carefully. You trust us with this? I trust that fear will teach you what laughter never could, Wren said. Weeks passed. The students moved on to other subjects, other curiosities, but the image of that silent fleet stayed with them. Every night Lyra dreamed of stars going dark one by one, of whispers in the void repeating the same phrase, we sleep until you forget. Years later, when both had become researchers, they returned to the old archives. The university had long since moved to another system, and the human department was now closed. The ban had been lifted quietly, its purpose long forgotten. Curiosity had returned. The two scholars submitted a proposal to explore the region where the human fleet had once been seen. The Galactic Council approved it easily, seeing no danger in what was thought to be a myth. Their expedition ship, Aurora, left orbit with a small crew and enough data to trace the last coordinates. The journey took months through empty sectors where stars burned cold and faint. Finally, the sensors picked up something impossible, an energy field that responded to their scans. A voice echoed through the comms. It was calm, old, and unmistakably human. "Do not be afraid. You have remembered too soon." The crew froze. Lyra stepped forward. "We mean no harm. We only seek to understand," the voice replied, gentle but firm. Understanding was never the problem. Forgetting was the cure. Then the signal faded, leaving behind a single transmission file. It contained coordinates leading back toward the center of the galaxy, and a single sentence in every galactic language. "Do not mock what you cannot comprehend." When Aurora returned to the Council, the data crystal was sealed, the crew sworn to silence. The footage was archived once more, labeled under the same name as before, Incident 54B. Centuries later, in classrooms across the stars, alien students would still laugh at the strange myths of humanity. But somewhere, far beyond the reach of any probe, 1,000 ships remained silent in orbit around a dying sun, their hulls gleaming faintly as if waiting for the stars themselves to forget. And deep within one of those ships, a single light blinked on, a reminder or perhaps a warning. The humans were still asleep, but their dreams were not.